All right, so there's been a major development in the Cain Velasquez case, as far as I'm concerned, because this happened a couple days ago. Apparently, the guy Galarte, who is accused of putting hands on Cain's kid, he had his plea, whatever you call it, where they put their plea in, and he pled not guilty, unsurprisingly. But what was notable about that, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that he pled not guilty to one count of lewd acts with a child under 14. So, I mean, there's nothing surprising about this aside from one thing, right? He's only charged with one count, okay? Now, you might not think that this has a lot to do with Cain, but I disagree with that, actually. I disagree with that very, very strongly because ultimately, I'm gonna give you guys a wide, sprawling video right now about this case because Chael said some really interesting things about Cain's defense that I wanted to note because I think they were really astute observations, and then I just want to talk about what I think is actually going to determine whether Cain does a bunch of time in prison or not because I think there's something very specific that is kind of obvious, and this has directly to do with that. Even though, as much as the judge tries to make it out like, oh, there's this case over here with Galarte and the kid, and then there's this case over here with Cain, and it has nothing to do with each other. That's not. I mean, we're human beings, dude. Okay, like there isn't some like robotic algorithm that's going to determine whether or not he goes to jail or not, or at the very least that it's going to determine, what he gets convicted of. Right? Cain, I mean, he's going to get convicted of something. That is 100% inevitable. But there's the algorithm is not existent. It's a bunch of people that are going to determine what they convict him of. And people are not logical algorithmic beings. Like we make decisions on emotion, right? We make decisions on emotion, and we make decisions based on social pressure, etc., right? So the reason that this is notable, in my opinion, that Galarte only pled guilty to one count is because that means that the only thing he's charged for is the thing with Cain's kid, right? And as far as I'm concerned, at least like barring there being some ludicrous strategy by the DA, that means that no other kids came forward, right? Because if other kids come forward, then they're gonna line him up and charge him with that. Now, let me ask you a common sense question here, okay? If your kids are in that daycare and you find out that there's been not only an accusation against, someone who was in the house that you were dropping your kids off at year over year, but that the father of said kid tried to murder the guy, are you telling me that you're not going to spend 3 to 5 days interrogating your kid to see if something happened to them that maybe they don't understand? Because I could promise you would. As a parent, you're going to sit your kid down and you're going to be like, listen to me. Like, I understand that this could be scary, yada, yada. That was a wrong tone. That's definitely not how you're going to talk to your kid. But you're going to do whatever you can to figure out whether or not this happened to your kid. Like you are going to figure that out one way or the other. And that goes for every parent. No parent is just going to take the word of daycare. So inevitably, every single parent asks their kid whether or not something happened to them. And if this guy was only pleading not guilty to one charge, that means Cain's kid's the only one that said that something happened. Now, what does that mean? Okay, does that mean that, just common sense, what it means is that the case is probably based on, the word of Cain's kid, who I believe is 4 or 5 years old, and maybe another witness that saw the guy. Like, who knows? Listen, you got to figure the police are not going to arrest a guy. Maybe they would, dude. Honestly, I don't know. But here's what I'm going to say. If it's only based on one count, so only Cain's kid, then what that means for, because I don't care about that case. If he did it, then I want him to go to jail forever. If he didn't do it, I want him to go free, obviously. That has nothing to do with Cain. I would never want someone who's innocent to go to jail. And if he did it, we should just, people who do that shit, as far as I'm concerned, have forfeit the rest of their life. But there's no way for me to know whether or not he did it. And what I'm saying is if I, as an observer, have to at least start to entertain maybe there is a small chance that he didn't even do it because there's only one kid saying that he did out of all the kids at the daycare. What that means is, that means that the jurors in Cain's case are going to be thinking the same thing. And if Cain tried to kill a guy for something that they are not sure that he did, that changes things in a major way. Now, it doesn't change things for me because, of course, I'm like, I understand exactly what he was going through. And I understand it. And I consider his act temporary insanity, no matter what. You know, the defense is the same, no matter what. So he's like, with me, he's good, dude, regardless. If your kid tells you that something like that happened, you're believing them, period. You know, why would you not? And if his kid is the only one that said it, it doesn't mean that he didn't. It doesn't mean that the guy didn't do it. It doesn't mean that the guy didn't, you know, if the guy said they said that he did it 100 times, maybe he picked one kid. Maybe he's smart. You know, maybe he's smart and he's like, yeah, I'll just do it to this one kid. And that way, if he says anything, it'll be like, what? And then there are no other kids that have, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean he didn't do it at all. It could just mean he's smart. But like, again, if there are 10 accusers, okay, I want to make sure that I'm communicating what my point is very clearly. If there are 10 accusers, everyone on Cain's jury will know the guy's guilty. And so they'll be like, this is a father who lost it going after a guy who is a serial diddler, right? And that's very, very different than, Cain lost it and went after a guy who may not have even done it, okay? And again, I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not saying the guy didn't do it, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying any of that. I have no idea. I'm saying that if there's only one accuser, it is a very different picture than if there are 10, even 5 accusers, even 3 accusers. It's a different, even 2. 2 accusers is drastically different than 1. Now, there might be other accusers coming behind this, but that would seem extraordinarily bizarre if you're the DA. Why would you try this guy multiple times? If there are multiple accusers, you know how that is. Did the Larry Nassar case, did they do it one at a time? They piled them all up, of course. So when I heard that he was only, pleading not guilty to 1 charge, that was concerning to me. Now, let me take a quick break, and I apologize to do it on this weird video, but I have a feeling that my deep thinkers are the ones who would watch this far into a video like this. So I'm going to plug Yo Kratom again because Yo Kratom is my favorite sponsor that I actually used. Well, that's not true, actually. I use IP Vanish, I use Sheath, and I also use Yo Kratom. But Yo Kratom, that's a daily thing for me, dude. So if you don't know what Kratom is, I am not at all suggesting that you go look into it. But if you are a person who has had the kind of struggle that leads you to Kratom, and Kratom has saved your life, and you don't know where to get it for 1/5 the price that you would get it in the store, Yo Kratom is your answer. It comes very, very quickly. You order it online, you use a credit card, it comes in 2 to 3 days, and you're good to go. Recently, one of my buddies ordered it, and he's like, hey, it comes in 2 days, right? Because if it doesn't get here today, I'm gonna have to go to the store. And I didn't hear back from him, which means it got there in 2 days. So, but it's great. They have all the different strains. YoKratom.com. You'll love it. Anyway, so listen, like, all I care about is basically, like, you know how, like, you do your laundry and you get it, like, when you have all your clothes clean, you're kind of like, all right, so, what shirt am I going to wear? And you know how you have, like, what your favorite shirts are because they're the ones that you just grab almost immediately when all of your stuff is clean. My FREECAIN shirt is in the top 2. Every time it's clean, I grab it and I put it on. And I do that because I'm just a naturally empathetic person. And anytime I see that shirt and I think about him sitting in a cell and knowing that he's the kind of father that would go and do a thing like that because his family is that important to him, like, I think about it a lot. Like, I think about what he's dealing with and how terrible. And I mean, it's like, it's the worst kind of torture. It's not like anybody who goes to jail, they lose time with their family. And that's one of the major, major, major downfalls of finding yourself locked up, right? I mean, among a million other things. But like, something about the concept of going to jail because you were protecting your family that makes it much worse. And like I said, dude, I was wearing it the day when we were traveling to Cancun. We were going 7 nights in Cancun. I think we left April 21st. So it was, 6 weeks ago. And I was wearing it at the airport. And that day, Cain's family put up a post on Instagram that it was his daughter's 13th birthday or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, man. And I just looked at myself. I'm wearing a Free Cain shirt. I'm with all three of my daughters and my wife. We're about to go to, Cancun for a week. No cares in the world. All inclusive. We're going to swim this whole time. I'm going to carry my daughters around. I'm going to throw them in the pool. We're going to play Frisbee in the pool. I'm going to put them to bed. Me and Gabrielle are going to hang out. It's like I'm about to have like an incredible family week. And looking at that post of him, of his family, like, oh, it's my daughter's, and just imagining what he must feel like, dude, sitting in his cell on his daughter's birthday. Here's another thing, speaking of that I just put together right now. So UFC 277, as a matter of fact, this is actually important. So UFC 277 is July 30th, right? I did a much smaller block of tickets this time, but we got front row again, like front row. Like anybody who pays attention, they're literally like the absolute, it's where we were at for 273. I got a small block. I have 3 tickets left. If you are interested, I was holding them because some of my other buddies said that they might want to come. It looks like they're not going to go. So I do have 3 tickets. They're $1,500 each. If you want to come, it'll be a blast. So email me if you want to go, realjesseonfire@gmail. This is the first time I'm announcing it on the channel. So they'll go fast. But this is relevant because UFC 277 is on Giselle's birthday. Okay. So one of the main reasons why I did a small block is because normally we do like this huge event on Friday. We do this whole thing, but it's Giselle's 10th birthday. And I was like, dude, so here's the thing. If it wasn't in Texas, I wouldn't go, because I just felt so overwhelming. Like I was so guilty. I'm like, dude, am I really going to go to this thing on her birthday? But we're doing a birthday party the weekend before. We're doing a birthday party the weekend after. I'm hanging out with her Friday before. We're hanging out in the morning and then I'm going. So it's like, but like, I couldn't even, like, I felt overwhelming guilt to the point where I couldn't get the tickets until her and I discussed that she's having 2 birthday parties, one on either, on the weekend before and the weekend after, that we're doing something special on Friday before, because I just, missing her birthday, I felt super guilty. I hit up someone that you guys know who also has a bunch of daughters. And I was like, dude, am I being the worst father ever? It's Anthony. He's fighting that night, And so I hit him up. I'm like, dude, is this like, am I being the worst father on earth? I just felt overwhelming guilt. And so imagining Cain in jail and not knowing how many of those birthdays he's going to miss, and knowing ultimately, like, it's his own decisions that did it. Like, and I don't fault him for it. It's like, it's temporary insanity. Bottom line. I don't fault him for what he did. But once all of that kind of settles itself down and you've got time to think, and he's got nothing but time to think, for him not to feel regret for what he did is impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. Like, what he did is the thing that you do if you snap. That's how I know the you know what? I forgot to mention this. So what Chael's point is he said, Mark Garagos is a very famous lawyer. Is he a good lawyer? I don't know. And I think one thing that's kind of interesting to note is that Mark Garagos, the thing he's most known for are 2 trials. One is the Scott Peterson trial, and he got the death penalty, so that wasn't a very good outcome. The other is he defended Michael Jackson in those child abuse cases. So, it's kind of, I hadn't even thought about that until the other day. I actually recorded this video a couple days ago and the audio was fucked up. And so I kind of came to that realization talking this through. And that is kind of weird, dude, that 2 super high profile cases that Garagos is defending is he defended Michael Jackson against supposed, fake, charges that he diddled a kid. And now he's defending Cain for trying to kill a guy who is accused of diddling his kid. Like, does that not seem kind of weird? Just a recap. Mark Garagos, his attorney, defended Michael Jackson against charges that he was a kid diddler. And now he's defending Cain Velasquez for trying to kill a guy who is accused of diddling Cain's kid. I don't know. To me, that seems very bizarre when I thought about it. I mean, you know, he's a defense attorney. It is what it is. He's a very well-known attorney. I believe Michael Jackson was acquitted, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure about that. But I know Scott Peterson got the death penalty. And I do have an indirect connection to him. My business partner, well, we're wrapping that business up, but my business partner was a business partner of Mark Garagos also. But I won't talk about their relationship, though. So, I don't know. Like I said, dude, for me, I just think it's really important that people make very public and clear that they are on Cain's side, because social pressure is going to be a big part of this outcome. If jurors feel like convicting him is against what people want, you know, that's going to sway opinions. But again, if this guy is only accused of Cain's kid and you're just looking at it and you're like, man, it was just the word of this one kid. Like, it's just, that's it. That's all they had was just the word of this one kid. And then Cain tried to go murder the guy. That's a harder thing to get behind than the guy was accused of, you know, diddling 10 kids. Anyway, I don't know. I'm talking long enough, but that's what I got. Free Cain.
No, we became friends like after that.
Wait, how long was this?
I don't remember. Our relationship was so on again, off again. I honestly don't remember the timeline.
Oh, and so you think that when you guys were off again, that he was not having sex with his ex-girlfriend?
If we were not together, then why would I care?
All right. That's not generally the rules that I had to deal with in college with my girls. Like, you know, we're off again.
Not crazy.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there was no like, oh, we're on again, off again. It's like, if you've had sex with me inside of the last, call it 2 weeks, and then you have sex with anyone else, then that means you cheated on me. It's like, we're not together at all.
That.